Welcome to Around the Kinky Campfire podcast. This is your host, the Cuddle Gigolo, aka El Comidon, aka Mango Boogies, but also known officially as H.H. Julius, your entertainment creative. I'm here with Miss Rue, our education guru, and our goal in this podcast is to destigmatize the taboo topics of kink, non-monogamy, and BDSM. We like to educate through awareness and with our experiences, and we are not certified professionals as of yet. So our non-judgmental topics, with a dash of facts, are to be taken mostly as entertainment and with, some slice of life anecdotal stories. Your opinions, lifestyles, and or way of thinking may not be in alignment with ours, but your opinion, lifestyle, way of thinking is also okay as well. And the fact that you have an opinion is valid. We're not here to change your minds. We are here just to provide a different point of view. Please join us every second and fourth Thursdays of every month, and our episodes are uploaded to all major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, etc., etc. Please look forward to this coming episode, as it will start shortly, and make sure to especially pay attention to our ASR Minute, which will start very soon. Welcome back to the campfire that is kinky. This is the Fort of Pillow session. This is another one with Mr. Snugglepuss, aka El Comidon, aka the man that is kinky, aka Julius, as my official name, just Julius. As you can see, I am solo again. Going to try to make these more frequent. This should be the fourth episode in this series. So, going to try to make these more common, put more episodes out. Right now, I'm going to be doing more solo sessions for the most part until we get the situation figured out. And try to just bear with us as we get the ball rolling again on the whole group thing. Hopefully, Miss Rue will join me in doing these as well. I would hope she would want to do solo sessions as well as having a group session. But we'll see. If not, I'll keep doing them by myself. I have no problem just talking now. I'm getting used to it. Usually more of an introvert type person, but I'm having a not really a crisis, an enlightenment during the podcast that there are topics I would like to specifically talk more about and have more of a reaction to. Don't really quite get into it when you have multiple people within an hour time frame. We could, do 2-hour podcasts, but that'd be probably a little much more than what you guys would want. But if you would like something like that, more extended form, then yeah, let us know. But I want the Pillow Forts sessions to be more of a deep dive on specific topics. So we like to talk about kink and non-monogamy and some geek stuff, as y'all heard in the last Pillow Fort episode. But I would like to break down certain pieces of those kink and non-monogamous topics. So my thing is more dating in the poly world, in the kink world. So I can focus on the non-monogamous stuff too, like speaking about like open relationships and like swingers clubs and societies and everything. I would definitely like to enlighten more people about those areas as I've been stepping more into the swinger side of things. And of course the kink, dating and kink is, very different, especially it even comes down to like minutiae of your gender and race and your dynamics that if you do dynamics or not, what your roles are, all those type of things. So I can definitely break those down in a Pillow Fort session. 20 to 30 minutes is what I'm going for. But right now I want to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart right now. as far as dating and relationships in general. Doesn't really have to be specifically with polyamory or kink. This is just a normal thing. I know most people like to make the comparison that monogamy is, a form. Basically, monogamy is similar to polyamory, is what I want to say, but it's just multiple different relationships. But you don't have that escalator that you have with polyamory. You kind of, you have a relationship, and it might be short or long term, and it goes until it goes, and that's, there's no end goal with it. You just kind of enjoy the person that you're with at the time, and then that could be all it is. And, if it's short term, then it's short term. If it's long term, it's long term. You kind of go with the flow. That's one thing I've been learning even now recently, even though I've been in polyamory for about 4 years now. I'm still learning that some people, you're just, mostly just going to be friends with benefits or just friends in general. I'm trying to figure out the whole physical part of it. Being demisexual is like, can I have a relationship with someone and just be friends, kind of, sort of? You can be romantically and intimate, but there doesn't need to be a sexual aspect of it. So you have those three things right now. So you have romance, intimacy, and you have emotional. You have all the different needs that you have, and sexual. So this is 4. Mental as well. So mental, romantic, intimate, emotional, and physical. So five things going on there. So that's usually needs that you need, needs that you have in a relationship. It can be one of those things. This is polyamory. You don't have to stick with just one or get multiple. You can just have one need being met and consider that a relationship. So that's what's nice about polyamory is, even if you are just mostly friends and then you cuddle or something, that's an intimate need that you have that's being fulfilled. So that's why I love polyamory, because you have that choice. Well, actually, I should say non-monogamy in general. You have those choices, and if that's all that the person is providing for you, and you want it to go that way for multiple years, you can do that. That's what you can do. Everybody's consensual. Everybody's an adult, so that's something you can negotiate. But this topic I want to talk about is kind of an overall umbrella. As far as I'm concerned, and I can talk about the different needs specifically in the next episode if I get any kind of response from y'all. I guess let me know what y'all are thinking. But right now, I want to talk about boundaries, and boundaries are something that nobody really has a clear definition on. So I'm going to give more examples than a clear definition. But I just want people to know that no matter what kind of relationship you have, it could be kink or it could be non-monogamous or monogamous, any kind of relationship, friends, family, whatever, you're going to need boundaries. So I want to specifically talk about boundaries right now, because I think it applies in every kind of relationship that you have. A lot of people have their boundaries broken by friends and family. Most of the time it's your parents, sadly enough, siblings or whatever. So your core family group, your inner circle, just tend to break your boundaries and then manipulate you into continuing to break them into adulthood. And unfortunately, you learn about relationships from your parents. So you could be guy, girl in between, and then you have mother and father, and then, they're just breaking your boundaries, and that's where you get your examples from, and you bring that into your relationships, which is not good. So just know that boundaries are limits and rules we set for ourselves within relationships. Basically, another thing is like how much you are willing to give or take before requiring things to change or call it quits. So it's hard to call it quits on family. They're there all your life, but we all know how it is to just kind of ghost people. What is it? Not ban people. What do they call it? They just kind of shut people out for multiple years and decades. I don't know about y'all. I grew up in an Asian household, and we can just, not talk to sisters and parents and brothers and stuff for decades. You just have a grudge, and then you just kind of shut them out. You just, what is it? Oh, I can't think of the word right now. I'm blanking. But basically, you just don't talk to them forever. And that just normally happens. So somebody just, pisses you off or something, and you just don't talk to them forever. It's like, you just go no contact. I mean, you can do that. That's perfectly, if somebody breaks your boundaries and you just don't want to talk to them, no contact is definitely a thing. So hold that grudge for as long as you want. You will never get closer. Hopefully, if something happens, you never resolve that conflict with that person. You never talk to them, and something permanent happens. They become unalived at some point. Hopefully, you don't have any regrets with that. But there are ways to work on boundaries. Maybe you didn't set those boundaries yourself, and you got burnt out because they kept breaking your boundaries and you couldn't take it anymore. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but that kind of stuff happens. You require things to change or call it quits. So you just kind of call it quits. Usually that happens more so in like romantic relationships with partners and stuff like that. But I would hope with family you can fix it. But some people have parents that are just stubborn and they're not going to change. They've been doing it for multiple decades, half centuries, and they're not going to change. And unfortunately, you just have to call it quits. You just no contact whatsoever. So that's what I want to talk about here is boundaries and what to do before that situation happens. And also just know, before I even start talking about this, that with boundaries, you don't have to explain yourself. You have boundaries. People don't uphold your boundaries or want you to break your boundaries. First, you can go gray rocking, which is showing no emotion, no response whatsoever. And then if it goes farther than that, you can just go no contact, just completely ghost them. And you don't have to explain yourself. So a lot of people don't realize this, that their boundaries are broken and they're getting burnt out, which is basically you just lose all energy for whatever you're doing. And a lot of the times this happens and you get exhausted and you just don't know why. It's because your boundaries are being broken on a regular basis by whoever it is, partner, friends, family, whoever. And got some steps here to see what is happening exactly. So you're going above and beyond your means. You have unclear communication, things like unsolicited advice, people invading your personal space, all this stuff happening, and you're just kind of giving with no kind of, you're not getting anything. So, that empties the tank. You run out of energy when that happens, when you give more of yourself than what you're getting back. It's all about energy exchange. So if you're giving yourself to somebody, however it may be, your time, your money, your emotions, whatever, and they're not giving you anything back, they just keep taking, that can just empty the tank. That causes burnout, loss of energy. Let's see here. Uphold boundaries now to avoid pitfalls later. Just looking over my notes really quick. Let's see. So yeah, that kind of stuff can happen. So a lot of times people don't uphold their boundaries because. So if you get into a state of like overly people pleasing, usually how that happens, people overly people please. And when you start to set boundaries, we finally realize what's happening. You've gone burnout. You've lost your tank is empty, and you don't know why. You're very irritable because you just have no energy. People will continue to push your boundaries, and you're not even bending them at that point. They're breaking your boundaries. So you start to put up boundaries now because you realize after all this time they've been taking advantage of you. It might seem like a rejection. So why do you continue to let your boundaries be broken? Because you will cause, no, can't even say that. You're not causing people. You will have people in your life being used to you breaking your boundaries and doing whatever they want, and they will continue to mostly manipulate you on all that kind of stuff. Usually it's a parent. If you're close to your parents or it could be any kind of family or friends. Whoever it is, you don't uphold them because you will feel rejected. They will manipulate you so bad and then just feel bad for not giving in to what they want. So it just becomes easier to give them what they want so that you will not feel rejected. Also, just a side note, the drink of the day is Mike's Hard Lemonade. I forgot to do the ASMR minute. When we're not in a group, I kind of forget about that because sometimes these Pillow Fort sessions, I will drink something and I won't. I'm having Mike's Hard Lemonade Seltzer Pineapple. There's your ASMR second. Very tasty. Okay, so you will have a rejected. So we have our lizard brain in there. When we get rejected by the group, that means, back in the caveman days, if you got rejected by the community, you got sent into the woods by yourself. We had no protection from the animals that were trying to eat you, and you would starve because you couldn't get enough food for yourself. You had no shelter because you were out in the cold. So rejection sensitivity is a thing. You don't like to feel that. Also, as a people pleaser, you don't want people to be upset with you because that makes you feel bad, and you want people to be happy all the time, and that just can't be happening. And you not having high stress and getting burnout. And I'll keep saying burnout because that's definitely a thing. That's the buzzword for recently. Basically, your energy tank will be empty trying to fulfill everybody's needs, and it kind of turns you into a mind reader because you're trying to fix people's problems or whatever it is, so they won't be upset with you, and you won't feel rejected, and you'll try to read their minds and try to guess and have an expectation of what they want before they even realize it, because then you don't want them getting upset with you. So, let's see. And sometimes even when you're enforcing your boundaries, people might say you're arrogant because all of a sudden you're telling them no. No is a complete sentence, and it's a good skill to have to be able, to realize that no is a very powerful tool. And you might feel bad by saying no because people will try to guilt you into doing what they want again. And sometimes that can, by breaking your boundaries, that can and people pleasing can create brats around you. So people will be very upset by you putting up boundaries and telling them to no, and then because you've people pleased for so long, that will just create a brat. They'll have a little tantrum because they're not getting what they want anymore. Their expectations have been broken, and they won't like you for it. So sometimes you might lose a whole friend group. That's just how it is, because people have expected a certain thing, and for some reason in society, and I'll probably do the whole episode just on expectations, because people, they just want cognitive expedience, and the quickest resolution. I've had a friendship with this person. They let me walk all over them for all these months and years, and now they're changing. So they're breaking my expectations. So I just want to assume that they're going to be this way forever. But people change, but people don't like change, which makes no sense because everything is changing. The seasons change. The weather's changing. The polar ice caps are melting. It's changing everything. Water levels rising. The world changes. So why can't people change? I don't understand this. People get upset when you try to change yourself or evolve and, get more boundaries to, maintain your mental health, and then they get upset with you. So it makes no sense. So people have a expectation of you, and they don't like it when those expectations, make it harder on their life. And they get they want to have a little tantrum, become a little brat. So unfortunately, that's how it goes, and you got to learn how to say no. That's your number one skill when you're starting to put up your boundaries. No is a redirection, not a rejection. Just remember that. So you just have to realize that you are changing the way people interact with you is not a rejection to them. So they have to learn that that's how it is. Or, if they can't handle it, then you just have to go no contact anymore. You might have ended that relationship, friendship, whatever it is. I say all relationships. So it could be friends, family, partner. That's all a relationship, all different kinds of relationships. So good ways to build more boundaries is to have a better connection with yourself. So the first thing you want to do is become more mindful with yourself, realize where your boundaries are being broken, where you're losing your energy, and make a commitment to yourself that I'm not going to let this happen anymore. People are not going to be stepping all over me. I'm not going to be trying to people please anymore. So you have to go within yourself. Usually, meditation. I do it, meditation, reading books, realizing what's happening, and I have feelings, so I need to put those feelings into words, and then go out and be like, why are these feelings happening? When are they happening? And realizing that people are using some form of manipulation or making me overextend myself, and it's like, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore because I just experienced burnout. I'm going to keep saying burnout. That's going to be a thing. And then I can become overly exhausted. So why do I go to that social event when I become anxious when I go there? What's the purpose of me even going to that social event? When I get there, do I even get anything out of it, or I'm just running on empty? So I got to realize, okay, I'm doing that for people because I miss you, want you to come out, and it's like, okay, I get that, but I get nothing. I get negative actually from that interaction. Sorry, I can't go. So it's just doing a mental note with yourself and realizing where your energy is being expended and where you're getting energy. What situations are going on to make you lose and gain energy. So that's the introvert versus the extrovert thing. Some people are ambiverts, so you get both. There's certain situations where you gain energy, could be in a social situation and personal time, and sometimes you lose energy personal time versus a social situation. So you got to realize that with yourself. You got to have a connection with yourself. So you need to figure out also, once you figure out yourself, you got to talk about the relationship that you have, where, friends, family, partner. You got to figure out that relationship status. It helps to know where you stand in that relationship. A little bit harder in polyamory because you have multiple relationships. So some relationships, you could, see, I'm a relationship anarchist, but some people have primary, so you're going to be on that escalator. Some people want nesting partners, want to get married, have kids, and all that stuff. No criticism. It might sound like I'm judging you, but I'm not. I'm not going to judge you. To each their own. And then some people might have a third or whatever, and they have secondary partners. However you decide to make your little polycule, and this is also for the monogamous people, you have to have clearly bounds. Is it like, are we goofing around? Are we just being friends? Are we platonic cuddle buddies? We could just be in a dynamic. If we're doing that, we could be just, sub and master, sub and dominant, and the master slave, whatever the dynamic is, clearly set bounds. And don't be afraid to talk about this. Some people are afraid of having like a commitment conversation. I make it very clear at the beginning, I do long-term partners. I don't care what we want to call it. I'm not super into labels or whatever, but whatever it is, I prefer long-term commitments. I don't really do short-term because I have trust issues, okay? And if somebody says, I'm only going to know you for a month and then we're going to be done, or we do a hookup or something, I'm just not going to talk, that this is how it is. If I know that's going to happen, it's like, okay, yeah, verbal communication with me shuts down. That's all there is to it. I'm not going to talk about myself. I'm not really going to ask you questions. So that's not beneficial to me. I lose energy that way because I do like to talk. I'm trying to learn how to be more talkative. So I would like to talk more. And if it's going to be a short-term situation, I'm really not going to, I'm not going to talk. It's just not going to happen. So I prefer long-term situations. I need to be able to evolve with my partner, however it is. It could be anything, it could be platonic cuddle buddies, but as long as we're going to do it on a regular basis, then I can have that communication, build that trust. I need to be able to build trust if I'm going to consider you a partner, whatever it is. So clearly set relationship status is always good. What are we doing here? We need a game plan. I present as male for the most part. And I was raised male. So guys like to have, this is overgeneralization, I know, but in general, guys like to have a set plan. We need goals, we need steps, we need stuff to accomplish. So I prefer that. I understand that most people that identify as women are raised that way. They kind of want to enhance the relationship. So that's, they don't really need that kind of thing. And I will report back if I finally talk to somebody that was identified as male, and I'll tell you how that went. But for right now, I've dated people that identified as women and were raised that way, and women like that kind of thing. Another overgeneralization, but I'm going to keep doing it because that's my experience. So if I say that is from my experience, that'd be your experience. So it's an opinion, and it's my experience, so it's right to me. Or whatever. It could be anything. It's my experience. It doesn't need you right or wrong. I'm just talking about it. If you don't want to listen, you can click off this podcast. I'm just going to go off of my experiences. So that's why I started the podcast in the first place, because I figured my experiences need to be out there. There's not a lot of people that represent my experience exactly out there, and I want to get us all together and talking. So that's my whole point of this. So I, as identifying as male and raised as male, like to have a game plan. So that is very good as far as I'm concerned. And that brings me into the, talking, info sharing. That's part of it too. You gotta share the info. I understand if you don't have a super trusting, you might be an avoidant attachment person. You want to keep somebody arm's length away, but that doesn't really help. And again, this is my opinion. That doesn't really help build a long-term relationship. That's what I'm focused on. I understand people have, they do hookups in short-term. I'm just talking to the people that like long-term because that's my experience and what I prefer. So you have to talk. That is part of the info sharing. Talking and being open to somebody builds trust. I prefer trust if I'm going to do anything with anybody. And my emotions are tied to being able to trust, and emotions bring out my sexual libido. So I need all that stuff to be sexually involved with somebody, and I prefer partners that have a higher libido than I do. So if I want to open up the sexual doors, that kind of stuff needs to happen, trust, emotions, and then we can do sex. And then also realizing, as we said earlier, that people change. So you're going to have to check in every now and then. This whole thing with boundaries could change. You become more trusting and more intimate and open up your emotions with somebody, and then boundaries can change. So a lot of people like to, cognitive expedience. They have these expectations that whatever you talked at on your first date or whatever is going to stay all the way to the end. That's not what happens. I don't know about y'all, but I have family in my life who are like, oh, you didn't like to do that. When was the last time? When you were 8? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? Yes, I like mustard now. I still hate pickles. That kind of stuff changes. It happens. And people just like to, kind of make that assumption that's going to stay that way. It's like, no. Remember, only one responsible for your well-being and your boundaries is you. Boundary making is a skill. Remember this. So you're going to fuck up. I fuck up all the time. Been in polyamory for 4 years. I really had a bad fuck up recently. That's part of the reason why the cast has changed for our podcast. And I did not realize that I could have boundaries, even though I've been doing, dating for I don't even know how long now, a couple decades, and then doing polyamory for like 4 or 5 years. You can have boundaries. Like I said, I was raised, identify as male and raised that way. Apparently, males, we don't bend our boundaries. We just break them all the time, and we're raised to think that was a normal thing. Once again, my perspective. Okay, my experience. I did not realize I could still have boundaries. I have to be the cool man. We just, stoic, don't talk about our emotions, and we just kind of do stuff until we get upset about something because we had a boundary and it got broken, and I thought it was like a normal thing, made that mistake. So this is why I'm talking about boundaries now, because it's very much on my mind right now. And I need more practice. I'm not talking to you from a high place. I'm right there, right down in the muck with you, still working on that. And relationships have changed, so now I'm trying to focus more on making myself better, which is always going to be a work in progress. I don't even care how long you hear me talking on the podcast or any kind of format. It's going to be a thing forever. So I could be doing this 10 years down the road or whatever. I'll be talking to somebody. Might not be out there in the airwaves or whatever, but I will still be working on this. I'm still going to be working. I feel it in my bones that boundaries are a skill, and I 100% believe that. That is a thing. So boundaries, are set up. And some people, especially if you're like in the middle of a relationship or something, you're going to have to put up boundaries, and that might make people angry, and they have their little bratty moments or whatever. But just know that is an insecurity that is probably being hit. Whatever it is that you have going on, if somebody becomes very upset with you and thinks wants to say that you're arrogant or changing and whatever, you probably hit one of their insecurities. And if you are one of those people that somebody puts up a boundary with you and you get upset with them, just know that, do that self-awareness thing. Self-awareness. You got to go introspective. Why am I being upset? It's probably because of insecurity. That's all there is to it. So if people are upset with you, just go to a point or whatever that you have and realize that you are triggering something with them, and that, it's probably just triggering an insecurity. So you have to just, think to yourself how much you want to deal with that, because people become angry when you hit one of their insecurities, and they might be feeling rejected or whatever, and, feeling that type of way, as the kids like to say. And that just happens. So I would just say if you are one of the persons that's getting all butthurt about it, just, remember what I said about no is not a rejection, it's a redirection. And try to be grateful that the person's doing that, because no is very hard for people that are codependent and people pleasers. Just know that. So make sure you say thank you that people are holding up their boundaries because they're practicing that skill. And just, try to uphold your boundaries now to avoid pitfalls later, because it's going to, as with a lot of people, especially on Reddit, they're in a monogamous relationship trying to make it polyamorous. They're changing their boundaries. So that is tough, because if you decide to change, it doesn't even have to do with boundaries. If you decide to change a relationship, like I said, could be friends, family, or partner relationship, midway through the relationship, that could be a lot tougher than if you had just done so in the beginning. But we all make mistakes, so hopefully you can communicate with whoever and they will stick with you. Much easier with family. I'm overgeneralization again, but much easier with family, because you'll always be family. There's nothing, blood will tie you, so that will always be a thing. If it's like a friend or a partner, they can always choose to just go away, and it really won't change anybody's lives too much. I understand, you gotta get a divorce or something. There's the legal ramifications of it and the financial ramifications of it, but in general, you will still be yourself. But it's tough out there. I know from personal experience, from being on both sides of it, creating new boundaries and having somebody enforce their boundaries with me. Hit those insecurities, because the codependence is a thing, and rejection sensitivity is a thing as well. So it happens. Just know it is tough, but you will make mistakes, and you will gain confidence by overcoming those mistakes. So that's how you build confidence, is mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's an expert. You will always be continuing to grow. I'm on that journey with you. I am not an expert. I will always be working on boundaries for the rest of my life and trying to improve relationships and make them all better in my personal life. I will make mistakes on this podcast, so that'll happen too. Hopefully y'all will see an evolution if you continue to listen to these episodes, and I'm going to be right there with you. I'm right there. Julius is there with you. Just Julius is there with y'all. I'll be there for you. Bop, 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 bop. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not YouTube, so we don't get demonetized. We're not even monetized right now. We're taking sponsors, y'all. I'm trying to get the websites going, and yeah, you might hear some sponsor breaks. It's just, bills got to be paid. That's all there is to it. But anyways, remember, boundaries are a skill. They will continue to need to be worked on, and remember to be introspective. Let's just avoid that burnout again. I'm going to keep saying this. You got to figure out where you get your energy from. That is the main thing, because I'm going to be talking about that, and later it's going to be a thing as far in every aspect. Introspection is a thing. Where are you gaining energy? Where are you losing energy? Because when you lose your energy and you have the burnout, I'm going to keep saying this. I'm going to keep saying this in your head. You will get tired. That is one thing. You will just be done. Stress is a thing. You don't want that high stress. You lose energy when you're highly stressed. So one way to avoid that is to know where your boundaries are and be able to enforce them. No is a complete sentence. That's all there is to it. Remember that gray rocking is a thing. Remember, no contact is a thing. So if somebody continues to break your boundaries, you don't have to tell them what your boundaries are. You can say no. That's one step. 2 is gray rocking, showing no emotion or reaction whatsoever. Basically just a blank stare, because you can't react positively or negatively, because that is a reaction that will fuel them to do whatever they're doing. Usually, in that case, it's probably some kind of manipulative tactic. And then after that, cut them off. That's it. Call it quits. No contact. That's unfortunately some things that have to happen. Just know, even if you're like, I'll be by myself, blah, 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 you will attract more people the higher your skills become. I will almost guarantee that. I'm not a professional, but that is a thing. When you decide to evolve, you'll bring more quality people into your life. That's just something that happens. I don't know what it is. It's the law of positivity or whatever, law of attraction. The Secret. There you go. I just spoiled the book for you. You don't even need to buy it. Like forces attract each other. So if you continue to work on yourself, people that are working on themselves, higher quality people, will be more attracted to you, and that's just the thing that happens. So that's about it I have now. We're just over the 30-minute mark, so I'm going to cut this off because that's all I really want to talk about for now, and I'll keep interjecting these things into our broader conversations. But yeah, boundaries is a big old thing. I'm working on it, so hopefully y'all will, work on it too. And hopefully you realize that now that's a thing, and I provided some steps to help you go and do more research on it. So if you enjoy these, go ahead and whatever you listen to, Spotify, iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast, and then continue to enjoy it. Go ahead and join the Instagram if you can, Campfire Kinksters on Instagram. And let's see. How do I close this out? I guess I'll just go. This is your boy El Comedone, Kerfuffle, Snugglepuss, aka Just Julius. Here, the official name, Just Julius Official. And catch you guys next time. Hello.